This is a video demonstration of ACHESS, a new mobile app developed by Chess Mobile Health. For people in recovery from drug and alcohol addiction, ACHESS prevents relapse and promotes wellness. ACHESS consists of a patient-facing smartphone application and a web-based clinician dashboard. The mobile app anticipates when a patient is at risk for relapse and provides support via tailored content, a network of peers in recovery, and the engagement of the clinical team. The clinician dashboard notifies the clinical team of at-risk patients and allows them to quickly assess the details of that risk. So let's have a look at the application. The screen that you're looking at now is the ACHESS home screen. And if I am a patient who is new to ACHESS, the first thing that I want to do is tell the application a few things about myself so that the features are tailored to me. And I do that by going into settings up here. A few examples of what I need to put into settings. My contacts, I can put in the name and number of supportive others, and then when I'm detected to be at risk, they will be notified automatically. Also, we have high-risk locations. So there might be places that are risky for me because perhaps a bar that I used to drink at or a place that I used to do drugs. I can put those locations and addresses in here. And once they're entered into the system, these locations are geofenced. And then if I approach these areas, my phone will go off, and I'll be offered support. And I can add as many of those in as I wish. A few other things here. Sobriety date. I can enter the date that I last used, and I will receive automatically congratulations for milestones, and there will be notifications to the peers in my ACHESS group. Notifications. Everything that happens within the ACHESS application that is pertinent to me can potentially generate a notification so that I don't have to open up the application and take the initiative to use it. It lets me know when there's something important going on within the app. Next, we'll look at my ACHESS profile, which can be accessed by clicking on the picture in the middle of the home screen. Now all of this information is going to serve as my face within all of the social media features in ACHESS. I can share pictures, I can volunteer information that's both recovery and not recovery based, and I can interact with others via their profiles. A highly valuable part of what ACHESS brings to the lives of the patients that use it is the ability to connect with like-minded people, whether they know them in real life or not. And that happens here in Gather. So what you see here are some groups of ACHESS users that are either self-selected or selected by their agency. In this case, we've got a Monday-Wednesday group. Now they meet in real life and they stay in touch in between those meetings using the application here. And then another example of a group of people who relate because they're all into home improvement projects, and they stay in touch via ACHESS. And significantly here, there is a milestone for one of the group members and a congratulations that's posted here within the group. Another way that people stay connected via the application is in a discussion group. So what we see here is conversations between members of these groups, and in some cases we have seen that there'll be a post here in the middle of the night, and because other members of the group receive notifications whenever somebody posts within their group, you'll oftentimes see a cluster of supportive messages if somebody expresses distress here in discussion group. Within ACHESS, there is a wealth of tailored resources available to me, at any time. And I can find those here in Discover. So first off here, there's what we call My Motivations. Now, this is basically media that I put in place, either text or photos or videos. And when I am at high risk, this media is pushed to me so that I remember why I'm trying to stay sober. An example here, if I want to add a photo, maybe I have a photo of my kid and I want that to show up on my front page whenever I'm at risk. I've done that here, and I can set that as my main motivation. I can keep multiple motivations in the system. And then that picture will pop up at key moments for me. Also, here we have a bunch of audio materials of all different kinds. And let's look at an example here. So we have long-form audio of AA speakers.
My name's Beth Hartley. I'm an alcoholic. Because of the grace of God and fellowship and actions of Alcoholics Anonymous and sponsorship, I've been sober since June 26, 1988. And
So there is both long-form audio, and I can put in my earbuds and walk around, do the dishes while listening to this stuff. And there is shorter audio training that involves mindfulness, relaxation, dealing with urges. And if I am at risk, sometimes the application automatically suggests I, for example, listen to guided relaxation. The ACHESS application sends me surveys to keep track of what's going well, what's not going well, and whether I might be at risk for relapse. And I can look at those surveys here under Plan. Now, every week, I am presented with a survey that involves 5 protective factors, and I rate them from really bad to good, and 5 risk factors. And as I go through and rate each one of these things, a couple of things happen. This data is used, I'll just jump through here, to do a few things. First, the system makes suggestions to me that I can take action on right away. So since I indicated I'm having trouble sleeping, I can click here and go directly to a relaxation tape. I can also look at how I've been doing over time. So in this case, I started strong, I dipped down, and recently I've been doing a little bit better. So I can track my recovery strength. Also, this data is used by my counselor potentially. The counselor is presented this data on a clinician dashboard, which I'll show you later in this demonstration. And we found during the clinical trial in which we tested ACHESS, we found that this data and other use data can be used to predict the likelihood of relapse in the next week. So what we've actually got based on all of these surveys is a predictive analytic, and this is presented to the clinician, that lets them know how likely each one of their patients is to relapse. So this survey data is used immediately to make suggestions for me, and it's also used on the clinician side. Even though ACHESS is built to anticipate when I need support, there may be times when issues surface suddenly and escalate quickly, putting me in immediate risk for relapse. And the Sentinel exists for those kinds of moments. So I click on this, and I see a couple of options. First of all, my motivation is presented to me, which may be a helpful reminder of why I'm trying to stay sober. And there are a number of ways to connect with other people down here. So I can click here and get on the phone with a counselor if the counselor is on call. There's also a Sentinel helpline associated with the application, so anytime I want to or need to talk to someone for support, I can click here and do that. Finally, whenever I press the Sentinel button, my counselor receives an email in real time notifying them that I am at risk. All these features allow ACHESS patients to build community and get the timely support they need to avoid relapse and continue to move in the direction of wellness. As patients use the application, they generate a wealth of data that could be useful to the clinical team. So ACHESS presents this data to clinicians in such a way that it is easy to access and interpret so that they can use it to provide more efficient and more effective care. Now let's take a look at the clinician dashboard and see how this is done. The ACHESS clinician dashboard empowers the clinical team to do three things. In just a couple of minutes, they can identify which of their patients is at risk for relapse or in need of support. They can assess the nature of that risk, and if they want to, they can reach out to the patient, all using this web page. So if I am a clinician and I am managing a certain population of patients that are using ACHESS and I log in to the dashboard, this is what I see. What I see first is a list of red pins. Now, a red pin is something that is generated by the system and put into this list when the system detects that a patient might be at elevated risk or needs my support. And that can happen for a number of different reasons. First one we see here is declining weekly survey scores. If the scores for an individual continue to go down, that might indicate that they are at risk and need my support. In some cases, inactivity shows up, and that just means that this individual, Jane, has not used the ACHESS application for a significant period of time. It is also reported to me here if someone did relapse. So what do I do with all these red pins? I'm a clinician, I log in, I see these red pins. Well, there are a number of things I can do. I can take action right away. For example, if somebody relapsed, like Catherine here, maybe I'll give them a call or maybe I'll message them via this system. I can dismiss an item if I know that, for example, Richard's inactivity is just because he's on vacation somewhere or some other reason. I can just dismiss this item. And in some cases, I might need more information about this individual to make a clinical decision. And to get more information, I can click on them and look at their patient summary. So let's have a look at Janet here. This patient summary page is a snapshot of the clinically relevant parts of this patient's narrative throughout the past several weeks or months. And all of this is built around this weekly survey score, which you see here. So here in Janet's case, we can see that her net survey score was pretty steady, and then it dipped down, and now it's on its way back up. And we can also see on this page every red pin that Janet has generated throughout this time period. And if we roll over these red pins, we can see that she actually had a relapse a couple of weeks ago, and then the subsequent red pin that she generated is because she has stopped using the ACHESS application. Now that might be enough information for me as a clinician to take action, and I can do that right down here. I can send Janet a message. But I might need more information. So I can actually break this graph out and examine individual survey items. And some examples here are whether or not Janet's been attending meetings, whether she's been in risky situations, how her depression is doing. And since I know she has a problem with sleeping, I want to take a look at that. So I add that to the graph. And I can see that lately her sleep has dipped way down. So I know now that she's not been sleeping and she's not been using ACHESS and perhaps now is the time to take action. And we find that actually in some cases, clinicians, when in a face-to-face appointment with patients, will pull this graph up to review what's been going on in their lives for the last since the last meeting. And sometimes this can be more powerful than asking exploratory questions and requiring the patient to remember, well, not only remember, but also have a sense of what's relevant in terms of their recovery strength. So all of that information is available here to me as a clinician anytime and for any of my patients. In order for these red pins to be useful, they need to be actionable. And what's actionable for me as a clinician might be different than what's actionable for another clinician. So this red pin definition is fully customizable. And the place you go to customize them is settings. Okay, so what we see here are a couple of columns. On the left, we have all of the events that can be captured by the system. And then there are two check boxes in the last two columns. You check under the red pin if you want that event to generate a red pin. So say, for example, I don't care if people stop using the application because there's nothing I'm going to do about it as a clinician. I uncheck this box. And this last box here is whether or not that red pin also generates a real-time email notification. So what I might do when I adjust this, as I've been using it for a while, and the default settings are what you saw there, is I might say, well, the only thing I want to find out about via email is a relapse or a detox admission. So I leave these boxes checked. But then there might be other boxes that actually I want to generate red pins, but I don't want them stuffing up my email box. I want to come to the web page and when I have time, look through the red pins that have been generated. Over here on the right, I can actually even more finely tune the system by selecting an individual and then refining the red pin and email notification settings for that person. So as I use the system and I find certain red pins useful and others not, I can come in here and refine it and make it such that I'm only hearing about the events that I can use clinically. The clinician dashboard is highly adaptable so that it provides value to a broad spectrum of medical professionals, counselors, and recovery coaches. Whether you want to spend time daily digging deep into the details of individual patient narratives or just be notified via email when relapse occurs, the dashboard has got you covered as a clinician. We've tested the effectiveness of ACHESS extensively. In a clinical trial, we found that risky drinking days were reduced by 57%. And in a pilot study that we did at the VA involving the really tough cases, patients who had multiple readmissions, we found that with 44 vets, those that got ACHESS had 80% fewer readmissions. So there's a lot of promising data that indicates that ACHESS can improve outcomes and reduce the cost of care.